Nu-ți convine?
Nu prea convine.
De ce nu?
De ce să fiu beneficiar?
Nu știu, dacă pii de la minte și faci cu minte și treci mai încolo. Deci la sumă ne-am înțeles. Da, 5 cifre? Bun. Artistii ăștia 5.000 bagi și anunțăm în seara asta. Merge, da? Am semnat. Am fost nebun, am fost inconștient, mi-am cumpărat festival. Bine, nu pe tot, sau poate deloc, dar urmează să ne vedem alături de următorii artiști și de meitii ca brand ambasador la Devasta Festival 2026. Ian! Petre Ștefan 911 Albert NBN și IDK. Bilete-devasta.com pentru bilete, frățiorii mei. Filele Epstein, vere, toate filele care au șocat internetul, da, toată lumea a văzut cazul ăla, foarte, foarte dubios, foarte, foarte ciudat ce se întâmplă. Astăzi o să vedem rapperi care sunt pe filele Epstein, care au apărut pe filele Epstein, care au fost pe acolo, care sunt majoritatea. Hai să vedem care e ideea cu toată chestia asta. N-am vrut să fac clip inițial, adică n-am făcut clip inițial despre chestia asta, că n-am căutat, n-am fost atât pe subiect, dar chiar sunt curios ce repări sunt pe file la băiatul ăsta, la Jeff, cum s-ar zice. Hai să vedem care e toată ideea. Avem aici clipanul de la Blackie Speaks, mă uitam la băiatul ăsta la Blackie Speaks acum câțiva ani, dă-i cu el.
What did it say Jay-Z did? He was there in 1996 just because somebody's name is mentioned in a 3 million document file of a person's life whose crimes who've spanned decades doesn't mean that every single person is an accomplice. He referenced Jay-Z once. He was like, oh, we could learn from Jay-Z's business model. Where's the crime?
How do two extremely famous rappers, one of them a billionaire, end up being mentioned in an FBI report from 2019 tied to Jeffrey Epstein? The other day, millions of Epstein-related files got unsealed and released. Literally millions.
Da, deci fata aia zice că chiar dacă îi apare numele acolo, nu înseamnă că a făcut niște chestii dubioase. Bine, sunt o grămadă care apar vere, sunt, nu mai știu câte mii de nume care apar pe file alea. Nu știu dacă toți au făcut chestii dubioase, mai mult sau mai puțin, dar tot e ciudat și e ciudat să apare acolo. Momentan, nu poți să zici foarte multe chestii, n-ai văzut-o, dar
buried inside all that is one anonymous FBI intake report from when the FBI opened tip lines back in 2019, trying to gather information after Epstein was arrested. Inside that report were two very prominent names in hip-hop who got mentioned. One of them is Pusha T, but the name that most people are stuck on is Jay-Z. And a lot of people are wondering what
Pusha T și cu Jay-Z sunt numele lor acolo.
The connection actually is. How in the world did these two rappers end up in these files? In 2019, after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, the FBI opened multiple hotlines for potential victims or witnesses to come forward. Anyone could call. Your neighbor, you, me, literally anyone with a phone who might have had information. And here's the thing, every call gets documented. That's what an intake report is. Basically, it's a document used by law enforcement to record the initial, often unverified, information received regarding a...
Ok, deci la început putea oricine să sune și să zică orice. Ați văzut, chiar și eu, chiar și tu, chiar și oricine, pentru că încercau să adune cât mai multe informații despre băiatul ăsta. Dar nu mai știu, în ce a înaintat în pușcărie? În 2019?
Potential
și tot atunci a și murit?
Crime or allegation. And this is what was in that intake report. On July 10, 2019 at 8:20 a.m. in the morning, an anonymous woman called the FBI and told them she was allegedly a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and others, spanning from 1994 to 2007. She recalled Harvey Weinstein, Leon Black, being present during some of those occasions. And then she names two people from hip-hop, Sean Carter, Jay-Z's legal name, and rapper Pusha T. Here's what the caller claimed in the intake report. The caller claimed that on one occasion, she woke up during an incident involving Harvey Weinstein, and she identified Jay-Z as being present in the room at that time. A lot of the document is redacted, so the full context of what she's alleging isn't clear, but the claim that this person made is that Jay-Z was there when whatever Harvey Weinstein allegedly did occurred. Now, aside from that, she also described people she called handlers, individuals who allegedly befriended victims, and she specifically named rapper Pusha T as one of those people. Here's what the document said about Pusha T.
Practic, femeia a zis că s-a trezit și când s-a trezit, i-a văzut în aceeași cameră cu ea pe băiatul ăsta, pe Pusha T, da, care din ce știu chiar a luat un Grammy.
Piese trap.
Hopa, mamă, dar tot începe piese trap, de nicăieri piese trap, care din ce știu a luat și un Grammy, nu? Anul ăsta, cu colegul lui. Și, bine, știm de beef-ul cu Drake și așa mai departe, da? Că i-a dat expus că are copil și așa mai departe. Și Jay-Z, care Jay-Z nu mai are nevoie de prezentare, da?
T's
Sau
alleged
poate pentru unii care au nevoie de prezentare, unul e miliardar și cântă piesa aia din Paris cu Kanye.
involvement. In 2007, she says a person she met on the street invited her to a party. She claims both Weinstein and Pusha T were at that party and that an incident occurred. The caller named Pusha T in connection with that party. Now, I'm keeping this information surface level to comply with YouTube's community guidelines on sensitive content. The full details are documented in the publicly available intake report. So this was basically a tip to the FBI that got documented. And here's the very important part, okay? The caller also told the FBI that her memory of the events was very unclear. She confirmed she had no diagnosed mental health conditions, and when they asked her for her address, she said she didn't have a permanent one. Now, what is this document actually? Well, it's a tip line call that was logged. That's really it, right? The FBI is legally required to document every call they receive on these hotlines, whether the information can be verified or not. This is not an investigative finding, criminal charges, verified testimony, or evidence that was presented in court. No charges were filed against Jay-Z or Pusha T. No public investigation followed. No corroborating evidence has surfaced. But 6 years later, when these Epstein files, which were like in the millions, got released, people find this intake report, and suddenly there's a lot of conversations happening online. And the question is, how exactly did this actually happen? How did these two rappers in hip-hop, one of them literally a billionaire, end up in a document like this? How does an anonymous phone call from 2019 turn into a viral moment in 2026? First of all, we obviously don't have the information the FBI has. Much of it is redacted, so we don't know what investigators could or couldn't verify. We don't know.
Deci, momentan, faptul că numele lor sunt acolo nu e ceva foarte plauzibil, adică nu e ceva neapărat pe care îi incriminează, care zice, da, ăștia au făcut chestia asta, pentru că asta zice și ăsta era ceva de suprafață, adică pur și simplu putea să sune oricine și să zică, bă, uite, ăștia așa, putea să zică și de mine sau și de tine. Deci momentan, mama nu știu dacă urmează mai încolo sau că dovezi, dar momentan băiatul zice că nu au cum să, adică nu e ceva care zice, bă, da. Dar oricum e ciudat să apare acolo.
Know whether investigators ever identified the caller, but at the time they documented this call, her identity was anonymous according to these documents. Now, one thing a lot of people are bringing up online is this, right? In 1994, Jay-Z wasn't even famous yet. How could he even allegedly be at these types of parties? That's what a lot of people who are questioning this are saying
era 94, n-am văzut că era
online.
94.
And let's actually stop right there and confirm some information, right? The caller stated that these alleged incidents started in 1994. However, Jay-Z was first specifically mentioned in relation to an incident she claimed happened in 1996, not 1994. And that's an important distinction because 1996 was the same year Jay-Z dropped his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. But here's the context a lot of people are missing. Jay-Z had been rapping for over a decade by that point. He started recording music around 1984, and in 1994, he found Rockefeller Records with Damon.
Ok, deci Jay-Z, în anul în care a scos albumul de debut și în care a început să bubuie, e identificat că era cu Jeffrey Epstein. Da, asta e de
Dash. So by 1996, Jay was not some unknown rapper selling mixtapes on a corner like a lot of people are saying. He was already in the game, okay? He was already friends with Biggie in the early 90s. Same with Diddy, who he also met in the early 90s because they were all running in the same circles. So the idea that Jay wasn't famous enough to be at these types of parties in 1996, that's not accurate. He was connected. He was in the industry. He was around people with money and influence. Now, does that mean that Jay-Z was at this specific party right here? We don't really know that, right? Does it mean these allegations are true? We don't know that either. But the timeline people are using to dismiss this, he wasn't famous yet, doesn't really hold up when you look at where Jay actually was in his career at the time. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't seem to understand about the entertainment industry is how small it actually is. People who barely broken into the industry might run into each other years, sometimes literally decades, before they have their first big break. You could meet someone at a party in 2026 who doesn't blow up until 2036. But
asta zice și el, că industria asta de entertainment, da, persoanele e foarte, foarte mică, adică poți să ajungi la cineva chiar dacă de-abia ce ai bubuit și ăla e mega consacrat, foarte, foarte, foarte ușor odată ce ai intrat acolo. Și asta, nu știu cum e pe afară, că nu am fost pe acolo, n-am prea fost prin America, dar da, clar, așa e și în România, odată ce începi să miști, începi să-ți faci 2-3 legături, da, începi să apari cumva pe internet, nu e foarte greu să ajungi la, nu știu, nume deja consacrate în industrie și așa mai departe, adică nu e foarte greu să te expui cu cineva, nu știu, de asta asumția asta că anumite persoane care colaborează pe internet sunt și prietene totodată, e proastă, e slabă, nu e, pentru că e foarte ușor să colaborezi cu ceva fără să fiți prieteni, doar din cauza că ăla are puțin mai multe numere și persoana care deja e consacrată vrea și ea să ia puțin de acolo, să se vadă că îi dă shout-out, da, să-i dea cosign, pentru că contează, de multă lume zice, mamă, l-am ajutat pe ăla când deja a bubuit, eu te-am luat, iar dacă tu bubuisei puțin, eu te-am luat lângă mine. Ok, Da, dar contează și persoana aia care te ia, pentru persoana aia care le ia pe ăsta mai mic lângă ea, că îl ia, adică îl ajută, da? Ceea ce făcea Nane acum câțiva ani sau sunt
You were in the same room 10 years earlier because you were both adjacent to the same circles. And here's the key part, right? The entertainment industry is deeply connected to the financial industry. There's tons of examples of this overlap between billionaires and entertainment. Some of y'all might remember that popular video I made about rapper Sexy Red's marketing campaign being connected to billionaire Todd Boehly, who's a billionaire worth over
Ăsta nu e ăla de are Chelsea Movere? Tot Boli nu are Chelsea?
$8 billion, who co-owns the Los Angeles Dodgers and Chelsea Football Club.
Ah, uite, vezi, am știut. Și ce ăsta a sponsorizat o campanie lui Sexy Red? Ce chestii auzi?
He was the largest investor in this company called Gamma, which is the company that made rapper Sexy Red popular. That's how the game works. Everything is intertwined. But this same exact pattern also can be found in this particular story, talking about the connection. Now, Epstein actually had a lot of connections to the art world. He played piano as a kid and was a donor to arts organizations. He also funded musicians privately and supported a lot of creative projects behind the scenes. But here's where things get real interesting. In November 1998, Harvey Weinstein was photographed at Diddy's 29th birthday party in New York City. And guess who also attended that same party? Jay-Z. Now, the year before that, in September 1997, Donald Trump was photographed with Diddy at his restaurant opening in New York. Now, Trump is relevant here because he's mentioned a whole lot of times in the Epstein files. And like everyone else we're talking about, he was a part of the same elite circle in the 90s. Also, Trump has known Diddy for a very long time, so he's another connecting dot between all these people. Now, fast forward to October 2007, Harvey Weinstein and Jay-Z were photographed together at a nonprofit event called Keep a Child Alive in New York City. Jay-Z has been connected to Diddy. Diddy hosted parties where both Jay and Harvey Weinstein attended. We also know that Trump was in that same world. And Epstein, he was moving through these exact elite spaces, whether it's finance, real estate, entertainment, using his capital to build connections. And that part is actually documented. Epstein didn't just collect money, he collected people, business leaders, politicians, scientists, artists. He built relationships through introductions, donations, favors, and that's how he essentially stayed connected in these elite spaces, by openly moving between industries. That's why you see finance, entertainment, and politics overlapping in this story. It's also very important to note that Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein were close associates at one point. Now, Jay-Z, Diddy, Trump, Harvey Weinstein, is everything that I just mentioned completely random encounters? That's a question I'm asking you, and of course, you're gonna have to make up your own mind. What I can tell you for sure is that this network of very wealthy individuals basically roll in packs. A lot of these people attend the same events, and they also do business together. So let's touch a little bit on the business part. In 2015, the Weinstein Company, co-founded by Harvey Weinstein, signed an exclusive 2-year deal with Jay-Z for both film and TV projects. In simple terms, if Jay-Z had an idea for a movie or show, the Weinstein Company had priority access to review the project before it went anywhere else. And in Weinstein's own words from the press release, having known Jay on a personal level for many years, we are thrilled by the opportunity to expand our relationship. So yeah, Harvey Weinstein and Jay had known each other for years, and they've also done business together. That part is documented. Now, when it comes
Deci ăsta, Weinstein ăsta făcea business oricum cu Jay-Z de o grămadă de timp.
to Pusha T, that's where things are a little different. I haven't seen him publicly moving in those same Hollywood circles, although I'm sure
Doar că Pusha T nu prea avea ce să caute, că nu a apărut atât de mult în cercurile
probably
alea.
did.
Nu era atât de dezvoltat.
assuming. Don't know.
Dar tot e dubios, vere. Tot e dubios să apare acolo.
Right? Back in 2007,
Adică mă gândesc că știi cu ce se ocupă oamenii ăia mai bine decât înainte să iasă pe online și așa mai
He would have been about 30 years old, and by that point, he was already established musically through Clips. Clips formed in the mid-90s, and they've been popping since the early 2000s. So yeah, Pusha T was definitely famous, but there's obviously a very big difference between being successful and having documented business relationships with film studios and producers. And that's the part that I can't really verify when it comes to Pusha T, because at the end of the day, this whole thing traces back to one anonymous FBI intake report from 2019, which was a tip that got logged. No charges, no verified evidence. So I'm not going to sit here and run with allegations I can't prove. Obviously, that's not what I'm doing here, right? I'm just giving you a backstory to some of the stuff that's happened in the industry as far as a lot of these people just being connected, right? Which is a very real thing. But what I do know is that, and I think this is something a lot of people forget, it's how small this world actually gets once you reach a certain level. At that point, everybody has access to everybody. Artists, executives, investors, creatives. Once you cross a certain threshold, these circles start overlapping. That doesn't automatically mean wrongdoing. It means closeness. It means proximity. And proximity a lot of times comes with silence. This is really about understanding how power actually works. Once artists reach a certain level, they stop being just entertainers, right? They start entering rooms with investors, executives, politicians, billionaires. That doesn't mean there's a crime that's been done. And here's the thing, right? Nobody wants to be the person who disrupts access in a room full of powerful people. Nobody wants to be the one who messes up relationships. Nobody wants to be the one who stops the money. That's how Jeffrey Epstein was able to stay protected for years, not through secrecy, through networks. And the scary part is that that system and that world still very much exists right now. A lot of times I think certain things like this are also a distraction from what's actually going on. But I guess that's the conspiracy in me. Or is that a conspiracy? I'm very curious what you think. If you made it this far, drop a like on this video. Clearly you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about.
Da, deci practic ăia doi au ajuns acolo, dar nu e nimic confirmat, nu poate să zică nimeni nimic că ar fi făcut vreo crimă sau așa mai departe și nu e nimic evident, doar că la fel cum zice și el, e un sistem foarte mare care nimeni nu vrea să vorbească, nimeni nu vrea să strice relațiile, nimeni nu vrea să-și facă probleme și nimeni nu vrea să-și piardă pâinea de la gură, să-și ia pâinea singur de la gură, cum ar veni. Și de asta atâta timp Epstein a scăpat fără să se ajungă nicăieri. În fine, chestii mari vere la care noi suntem prea mici poate uneori ca să înțelegem tot. Dar, na, interesant clip.